Hidden atrocities, suppressed stories, and moments that nearly rewrote history, but were buried. What if everything you were taught about the 20th century was only half the truth? Because while the world remembers wars and revolutions, entire genocides, secret experiments, and mass killings were quietly erased. Not because they didn't matter, but because someone made sure you'd never learn about them. Tonight, we uncover the darkest events of the 20th century that changed everything, but were hidden in the shadows. Welcome to Shadow History, where the past isn't just remembered, it's exposed. These are not just stories, they are warnings. Because the most dangerous events in history are not the ones we remember, they are the ones we forget. Before the Holocaust, before global outrage, there was a genocide the world chose to ignore. In 1904, in what is now Namibia, German forces issued a chilling order. Every Herero must be shot. Men, women, children, driven into the desert with no food, no water, wells poisoned behind them, escape routes blocked. Some drank their own blood to survive. Others walked until their bodies simply gave up. And for those who survived, they were placed in concentration camps, forced labor, starvation, medical experiments. One camp, Shark Island, became known as Death Island. Prisoners were worked until death, their skulls later shipped to Europe for racial experiments. This wasn't chaos, it was systematic, planned, calculated. A blueprint. Years later, historians would notice something chilling. Many of the same methods appeared again in Nazi Germany. But for decades, silence. No global outrage, no justice. Just bones buried beneath the sand. If there was a place that defined human cruelty, it was Unit 731. Hidden in occupied China, it looked like a normal facility. Inside, it was hell. Prisoners were called logs, not humans, logs. They were frozen alive to study frostbite, organs removed while fully conscious. No anesthesia. Children, pregnant women, entire families. Some were injected with diseases, others strapped to bombs to measure blast effects. And then came the most terrifying part, biological warfare. Plague-infected fleas dropped from planes, villages unknowingly infected, outbreaks that wiped out entire communities. And when the war ended, justice never came. Instead, a deal was made. The United States secretly protected these scientists in exchange for their research data. Think about that. The knowledge gained from unimaginable suffering was preserved, not condemned, buried. Imagine living in a village where food exists, but you're forbidden to eat it. That was Ukraine in 1932. Under Joseph Stalin, grain was confiscated. Not just excess, everything. Families hid food in walls, under floors. If discovered, execution. Borders were sealed, no escape. People collapsed in the streets. children crying beside lifeless parents. There are records of entire villages disappearing. Not war, not drought, policy, a man-made famine. Some survivors later whispered the unthinkable, cannibalism, because when the system removes all options, humanity begins to collapse. And yet, the world barely reacted. Journalists who reported the truth were discredited. Others stayed silent. For decades, it was denied. Even today, the truth remains politically charged. But one thing is certain. Millions didn't just die. They were starved on purpose. In 1965, Indonesia changed overnight. A failed coup triggered something far worse, a nationwide purge. Anyone suspected of being a communist was marked for death. No trial, no proof. Neighbors turned on neighbors. Names were whispered, lists created, and once your name was on it, there was no escape. Rivers turned red with bodies. Entire villages wiped out in silence. And here's what makes it darker. This wasn't just internal chaos. Declassified documents later revealed Western governments were aware. Some even supported it. Why? Because in the Cold War, stopping communism mattered more than human life. The killings weren't hidden at the time. They were normalized, celebrated. And today, many perpetrators still live freely, some still in power. In the shadows of South America, a secret network was formed. Its mission? Eliminate anyone who opposed the system. This was Operation Condor. Governments from multiple countries working together to track, kidnap, torture, and kill. Cross-border assassinations, secret prisons, and one of the most horrifying methods, death flights. Prisoners were drugged, loaded onto planes, and thrown into the ocean, alive. No bodies, no evidence, just disappearance. Families waited years, never knowing what happened. Children of victims were taken and given to military families, their identities erased. And the world knew more than it admitted, because geopolitics once again outweighed justice. Even in the United States, darkness wasn't hidden overseas. It existed within. For 40 years, hundreds of African American men were unknowingly part of an experiment. They were told they were receiving treatment. They weren't. Doctors observed the progression of syphilis without curing it, even after treatment became available. Families were affected, children born with disease, all in the name of science. And it continued, until it was exposed decades later. Proof that sometimes the darkest events don't need to be hidden, they just need to be ignored. These events were different in place, different in time, but they share one terrifying truth. They were allowed to happen, ignored, denied, buried, because power controls memory. And when history is controlled, so is the future. The shadows of these events still exist today, in distrust, in conflict, in silence. And the question is no longer, how did this happen? The real question is, could it happen again? If this video opened your eyes, you're now part of the few who see what was hidden. Like the video, share it, because the more people who know, the harder it becomes to bury the truth. And tell me in the comments, which forgotten dark event should we uncover next? Because history isn't just written by the victors, it's hidden by them. And here we bring it back to light.